Okie dokie. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Building Meta Communities. And today I've got a lovely guest, Yvonne, who I'm just going to hand the mic over to so she can introduce herself for you. And we can then start talking about debunking the myths of NFTs and blockchain. So, Yvonne, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. So nice to be here, George, and sharing some thoughts with you about blockchain and NFTs. Um, I come actually from the art world, the physical art world. I don't like to call it traditional because there's nothing traditional about the art world except its foundations. Um, and I've been working with art and impact as a catalyst for social change for the past 30 years. And a couple of years ago, I started diving into the blockchain and got down the rabbit hole and found that there was a way to come full circle and to really build something that would be a sustainable creators economy, rewarding artists while working with impact, and started exploring it. And here we are. Uh, I'm a founder of a startup that is in progress, and it takes a long time to build in the blockchain. And I'm taking my time, even if this goes at the speed of light. I believe in strong foundations. And at the same time, I started, onboarding individual artists and impact leaders. And I just also created a course very much dedicated to the arts vertical because I really believe this is a very empowering tool. You just really need to understand why you're using it and how you're using it, obviously.
Perfect. Well, thank
Nutshell.
you for sharing that intro. And so, your journey into the NFT world, right? Coming from either traditional art space, but still being a little bit more open, right, to this new world. Um, how would you describe that journey for yourself? Getting into NFTs. What were some of the barriers? What were some of the positives? Well,
Well, I was a little bit in a sort of advantage because I've been working with digital art for 20 years already.
mm,
And so working with some sort of intangible art made it already very complicated to sell it in the 90s, to show it, to conserve it. So there were already many questions in my mind about how this was going to grow, whether it applied to photography or net art or video art that was already going at that time. And we were already having discussions, like I guess the cryptographers that created the blockchain, about how this digital identity could be preserved in the future and how we could also showcase it, etc., etc. So, uh, that in terms of the concept of intangibility, there was no barriers for me. And the barrier arrived when, a startup from Hong Kong asked me to come on board and help them consulting to build a marketplace for conservation through, an NFT marketplace. And I knew about the blockchain, but I didn't know anything about NFTs. And I never took honestly, with the prejudice I had about finances, I never even looked into Bitcoin or even scratched a little bit to understand what that digital money was, because it's actually more than money. And so when I got into this NFT situation, I had to start diving and understand the whole ecosystem. And there's a lot of things to learn, and the most complicated in a way is to understand the language, because when we say blockchain and people do not know what's the blockchain and cannot understand in 1 second what it is and what it incurs and what it implies. I mean, this is this monumental digital ledger that allows us now to basically create a digital identity, a unique digital identity. And maybe people don't realize how important this is and how impactful that is, but it is, because we are living in a digital world already. I mean, we do most of everything on our mobile and on the internet. And the blockchain, which is this other layer, give it this whole new level of transparency, immutability, and trustability. So it is a very powerful technological innovation. So the difficulty at the beginning was the language and understanding what was what and who was doing what. And it's a very fast world with a lot of FOMO because it's linked, of course, to cryptocurrencies. And that means that there is on the backstage, at least of the NFTs, there is a market going on that is alive 24/7 in every corner of the world. So, I was seeing all these people really working 24/7, and I was starting to get a little bit anxious. But I'm not a trader. And what fascinated me immediately in what those tokens could do and what the blockchain could do is all the part that is the utility of the NFT. And that was fascinating. And of course, I personally believe that we are still in diapers in this industry, but that the building is what is fascinating. And anything you can imagine, because it's all built on code, could be made, for me at least. It's a matter of time. Like, we cannot put back this technology in the box. It's out now. It's, even if people don't really realize it, I'm not talking necessarily about NFTs, but the blockchain in itself, it's used in a private and public way because it's an incredible tool of traceability and accountability. I mean, imagine all the things we could do with it in terms of production chains, and this could be applied to and better the world by incredible energy savings and incredible production savings. And some industries are already applying, as well as some governments. And with the NFT layer, we have a whole new world that appears, that gives us access to these virtual worlds, which are beyond diapers, I would say. But you can see them emerging, and you can see that, of course, as good humans that we are, that the big companies are already starting to plunge and dive into it because they realize that this is the present and the future of commerce, among other things, because we are digitalized already. And I can only imagine how that is going to be for somebody like a Gen A. Is they're going to be beyond native digital. They probably be learning, maybe speaking code in a couple of decades from now.
Exactly. I think a lot of these kids, interestingly, the writing, like handwritten, skills are not as important anymore, because as soon as they come out of the womb, they're given an iPad or something, and they're able to already start swiping and playing games, which I find very fascinating.
And that accelerates also the way you learn, for better and for worse, of course. And you're having a generation of kids that are coming up that are totally tech savvy and that are buying and communicating online. For them, it's absolutely natural to buy a digital asset already. You see it in Gen Z when we're talking especially about gamers. And what the blockchain in this layer allows is that you, as the creator or the owner of certain digital assets, you will have, depending on what every creator gives you, but the creator will have the IP rights, which they have always, but also the royalty rights. And that is a very new concept in the creator's economy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I would
incredibly
agree.
powerful.
What communities did you join at the beginning? Or okay, maybe I'll take a step back. When it came to learning about this space, right? Which groups or which platforms did you go to in order to start learning and engaging with others in the space?
Well, it was very crazy when I came because it was really wild. I mean, it's still very wild, but there was nobody around my usual community that was there, except that because I had been working with really major digital artists in the 90s and 2000s, etc., And I kept in touch with them all my life, and they started doing also NFTs. They were some of the first artists that were in some of the Christie's auction. um, these were the first people I called because they are my friends and I've been in touch with them with the past 30 years. So I started asking them for guidance and asking them what they thought. And because they are also very intellectual artists, they immediately bombarded me with so much information and created so many different levels of questioning and challenges, because these are not just people that use the NFT. They really have a reflection behind it, which reflects on the utopian place that we all get wrapped up when we get so excited, and we look at the pillars of the vision and we think they are basically there when actually they're not. Like the part of the inclusivity. It's supposed to be a more inclusive world. Not really, not really yet, because
Interesting.
NFTs are a technology. It's built by humans and it's managed by humans. So we have a tool that opens a door to this possibility of more inclusivity. But for me, there is not yet inclusivity, whether it's financial, especially when most of the liquidity is on one chain, aka Ethereum. And even if they resolved one big problem, which was the energy consumption, which they consider very low, because obviously comparing, 300,000 people that, or 350,000 people that use Ethereum to the world consumption of energy is a little bit, not fair. But yeah, the problem is that still today, uh, it's an expensive chain to use, because every transaction we get charged, and Ethereum is still very expensive. So right there, right off the bat, yes, this is problematic. And it's problematic also in terms of adaptation and scalability. So of course, you have other blockchains like Tesos or Polkadot or Cosmos that have been on proof of stake, which is the protocol that is more based on finances than on an energy consumption, uh, that allow you to at least really experiment. Because when you start, I think you need to experiment. And of course, you don't want to experiment when a transaction can cost you, between $50 and $200 a pop, because you're gonna go broke after 1 week and you're not really gonna
Exactly.
like it. So, and also, what you realize is that the blockchains themselves are like little tribes, and they have a vibe and they have their own communities and they specialize in different things. And there are some blockchains like the Tezos blockchain that I love, that is very much populated by a lot of artists. And you see this phenomena of artists supporting artists, which buying artists, collecting other artists, which in the physical world is not very rare. It's kind of rare also, because the prices are different and the structure of the market is different. So I started by going always, like I always do, to the source, which is the artist, always. And if you follow the artist, usually you cannot go wrong. And so I started following artists that I already admired in the physical world and were already digital artists, and now we're creating very cutting edge NFT projects. And then, of course, I'm an avid reader and I'm an archivist by formation as well. So I have also done a lot of research and started watching every single documentary I could find on Bitcoin and the blockchain and NFTs. I mean, there were not millions of them, but I did watch around 10 of them, and started getting really excited by understanding how this whole thing was built and why it was built. And it became really more like when you discover a new ideology, and you feel you are in the right place at the right time. And of course, from watching documentaries, I started looking for podcasts and a lot of Twitter spaces. And at the time, everything was happening on Clubhouse. Now it's on Twitter Space. Um, and it took me I've gone into a lot of them until I found, and I'm still looking, and I still get amazing surprises, until I found the people that are like-minded to me. There is all kinds of people in that universe. So there is okay, I'm French as well, so there is this podcast that I listen to every morning at 9 a.m. in my side of the world, and it's called NFT Mornings, and it's in French, and it's by these two really amazing guys that have been in the space for the past 3 years and are really inviting every day a new founder, a new speaker, and it's very friendly. I met a lot of people there and created a lot of networks. And then again, no secret, follow the artist. If your favorite artists are giving a Twitter space, usually it's gonna be amazing. And that's what I do. So of course, I have compiled the list of my places where I go, the podcasts that I listen, and others, that I'm gonna also put, available. I tweet about it sometimes as well to give to the community what I have found out, and what are my picks, and then they can make their own picks. There are podcasts that are more towards DeFi and finance and the market, but I'm not about financial advice, not in that way, not in the trading way. So I'm more interested in the art and how it's been in practice. And also sometimes I'm very interested in the legal part, because that's kind of essential in that world. And right now it's the far west, but things are going to be coming besides regulations, because it's complex. Right now, it's all very exciting, but the truth of the matter is that because we don't have interoperability across chains, it's still very unstable in terms of sometimes security and identity and hacks. And that is something I'm sure it's going to change, because interoperability is in the minds of everyone. But until there is not this type of thing, it's going to be complicated to really enforce the no copy paste, which you can't, but some people can really do little tricks there. So that part is still a bit shaky, but it's working. I mean, it's a work in
Exactly.
progress.
Exactly. And I think it's been interesting, right, to see how the different camps for all of these different blockchains, right, and how people can get quite religious, about which blockchain. But I think what I really loved about when NFTs sort of entered the space, there was less of a focus on the blockchain itself and more focus on the content and the art, right, like for artists. And so within the artist community that you're part of now, what I guess this might be a good segue into the actual like myths, right? What are some of the things that you have discovered that you think are myths compared to what's being promoted, within the space?
I mean, when I started, I was working for a conservation startup, and that was, around, I don't remember, 2020, something like that, a little bit, or 2019, the end, the beginning of 2020s. And of course, the most liquid chain there and really solid chain at that time was Ethereum. So the first thing that happened to me when I started doing my research is that there's a lot of very serious artists, visual artists and digital artists that have been doing a lot of research on the consumption of the chains, on the blockchain at large and the different protocols. So I saw this red flag, and it became this huge battle within the company. because I was there, I was working as an advisor, and I was saying, you're preaching, that you're going to, help the planet, but, even if you use carbon offset, which I'm not always cool with, because it depends how as well and when you offset, and there's a lot of issues there as well. You're not really doing good. You're actually creating. And, we got into this whole philosophical discussions of, of course, there is very little people on the blockchain. So, of course, compared to streaming on YouTube, and I mean, yes, probably, but one right, two wrongs don't make one right. And what happened is that, of course, I discovered immediately that there was another protocol called proof of stake that is 99% less polluting than Ethereum was at the time. So right now, of course, this problem does not exist anymore, because finally Ethereum merged to proof of stake. But that was a myth, because nobody would tell you that you had to mint, aka create an NFT on Ethereum. But everybody wanted to create on Ethereum and still wants to create on Ethereum, because that's where you make the most money, in between quotes. So it was more of a financial stake at the end for me than doing the right thing. So during all this time, I contained myself and did not have any Ethereum in my wallet. By principle, I mean, I'm not critical. Everybody is allowed to do whatever they feel and do, and decide where they want to, invest in terms of, saving the planet, what you want to cut down. I'm not preaching to be a total, radical, but it is a little bit out of place when you are working for a conservation marketplace to doing it on Ethereum when you had a choice. But at the end, they did change to Cosmo. So the internal bomb was a good thing inside. What other myths there are? I mean, that this is a scam. I mean, this is not a scam. You have scams, of course, a lot of them, and but you have scams in every niche in the physical world. It's this kind of the same. Uh, what is important is to really do your homework and really examine why you're there, explore, understand who's behind, who's not behind, why they're behind, why they're not doxing themselves, why it's a very new universe. So it's like, imagine you go to a new country or a new city and you start settling down, and then you start knowing the streets, you start knowing first your neighborhood, you start creating a tribe. I mean, it's the same here. This is an absolute myth, and I can tell you that by working with artists that are working both in both worlds, it is if you work, it's not a technology that you learn in one day, and I don't believe it's something you just can go and mint an NFT and make $1 million or even $10 just like that. There is no magic wand, but it's certainly much more rewarding in terms of even making sales than in the physical world. And this is coming from the mouth of emerging and also mid-career artists as established artists. And it's not, that you can just come from the physical world and be a big artist in the physical work and just drop a collection and sell it out and make tons of money either. It doesn't work like that. It's like you have to start from scratch, no matter where you're in your career. Even if you want to transition your existing community to this other more crypto-based community, you need to educate it. You need to talk to them. You need to explain to them why you're doing that, because they don't know what an NFT is. There's millions and millions of people today that still, look at crypto. It's like when I came into crypto, I really thought it was all about finance. And I'm really not into trading, whether it's art or physical goods or assets. So I was really not interested. But when I started reading about the creation of the blockchain and why it was created, I totally related to it because I work with digital assets. It's art, or but it's still it was still digital, and it's still, I had all these questions when I had collectors come and say, how long is this video piece gonna last in terms of, and where do I show it, and how do I insure it, and this, it was so difficult to trade at the time, that, you had to have, you just have a 1% of collectors, that would say. And as I said, 85% of the art market is paintings. So we don't have an art market, we have a painting market. Actually, that's the reality, because the world like tangible things. And now, for the first time, there is a really strong place for digital art, because there is a new market that is created by having all this new community of crypto natives that, they know what is trading a digital asset, and they are learning now as well about art. And, art is such a vast world, anything can be art, and we can all be artists as well. But it is this part, in a way, it's really beautiful, because sometimes I speak with people that are 20, 30 years younger than I am, and they're telling me, that digital art just came to life today, and it's been there for a long time. And so there is this interchange between these two age groups, or, I'm like a big dinosaur, but with a spirit of unicorn. But I love discovering as well this new generation of artists that are using the media, and that are talking about the issues of today. In my time, being homosexual was a huge thing, but today we're talking about also, for example, other gender situations that are minorities, that also need support, and that have not had their problematic addressed through the art. So you have all the new themes that are coming through, and they are done with a new media that is so appropriate for the expression of their thoughts, and that is super exciting. Also, it's a world, you know it's a word that allows you to meet people you thought you would never meet. I was on a room yesterday because Sebastião Salgado, who is an incredible Brazilian photographer, was doing his first drop, and I never had the opportunity to actually listen to him in a live space. Okay, it was a Twitter space, so it's a little bit different, but it was like if I was there, or I was also listening to this artist that I've never met, but I love her poetry, and she did a reading the other night, and it was across the other ocean, and it felt like she was reading to me. So it is an extraordinary word. It's just extremely wild, because we have everything and anything could be allowed as well. So it's about each person building and regulating that. And by regulating, I'm not talking about taxes, which obviously will come, but I'm talking more about the values we want to bring in. And in terms of myth, I don't remember. One thing that I'm asked all the time is, where do I see my NFTs? And this is kind of a funny question, because, of course, the obvious place is your phone. For me, this is like normal, but I guess for certain generations, it's not. For my generation, it's not. But today, there are so many different ways of displaying this technology. We already, of course, you have the projectors, and you have the incredible new screens that are coming, that are still costly, but you're starting to have all kinds of apps that are developing that are allowing you to showcase it in your phone and to then pivot it into a screen. I mean, it's the diaper world is growing, but there are guys that have been working on these apps for the past 15, 10 years. So there's things that are really coming out now.
And you have a course coming up soon. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I have a course because it's been, I've onboarding a lot of artists and a lot of impact leaders, and I thought it would be a nice idea to create a course on NFTs for beginners in the art world that, really give you a really big solid base to enter the world with all the luggage. And I wanted to do something that was encapsulated in 2 weeks because I know how people get crazy with time. And there's like 4 live sessions, and they are, it's a cohort based course, so very participatory, with a lot of frameworks and a lot of, checklists so you can be secure, and a lot of my influencer picks, all my podcast. I mean, I'm gonna give away everything that I have accumulated over the past 3 years of research, and that I keep updating every week and every day, because it's every day I discover a new podcast, every day there is a new marketplace, I check it out, I write it down, and it's really awesome. It goes at the speed of light. And also I thought it would be really exciting to invite a couple of artists to talk about their journey, and do as an optional, additionally to the live sessions, I put, besides my beautiful office hours where people can ask me all they want for 20 minutes, then we have 40 minutes with a guest for 4 times. And I have picked two super artists that come from, the photography and the sculpture world, because I thought it would be interesting to talk about somebody that started in a physical and went to the digital, and somebody who worked on digital and then couldn't make it in the physical world and started doing NFTs. And also inviting a collector, an NFT collector that I thought would be very, inciting for, future collectors as well that are invited to take the course. And and of course there is a fabulous artist with an amazing community builder, because in that space, I mean, you first need to understand the ecosystem. And once you understand the ecosystem, then you can start thinking about what you want to do with this tool. What are my objectives? And even once that's fixed, you have to build a community, or pivot your community to that. And that's important to do it in the place where most of the crypto natives are, which is Twitter. So we're going to have a very long, even though we're going to talk about the other channels and other ways to build your community, which, there's tons. You can accompany that by a newsletter, by a blog. But really, the community is very vibrant in Twitter, and that's actually where I decided to not migrate, because I've been on Twitter for a while, but I've been on Twitter and working with climate change mostly. So I pivoted a little bit of that community in my new Joining the Dots account, where I talk about art, impact, and the blockchain. And so we're going to do that as well. And then, of course, we're going to dedicate the full live session to wallets, which is crucial for your security. And we're going to talk about security and tips and hacks, so people can avoid all the stupid mistakes I make when I enter the space. I basically had a MetaMask wallet, and I, like an idiot, saved my seed phrase in an external disk. And the external disk was new, but somehow it crashed. And thank God I had one NFT in there, but she's in cyberspace forever. So there are definitely things that you can do to protect yourself, and the level of protection that you want to have is up to you as well, because you can use third parties that will give you another layer of protection, but at the same time it's complex, because if the third party gets hacked, then the consequences are also big. But it's a very personal choice how you want to handle your security. One thing is certain, is that it is the first time that you have the opportunity to take the full responsibility and be your own trader, your own bank, your own everything. So that possibility is amazing. But of course, it comes with all the responsibility of how do I keep safe, because now it's like the bank is not keeping me safe. If do I want to sleep with my cash under my pillow? Uh, all of these things, I will definitely get into depth of the different types of wallets you can have. And of course, we will create together a MetaMask wallet, which is the most used, but because we're going to be um, playing on we're going to be, minting or collecting an NFT, we're going to do it on the object blockchain, object marketplace, which is on Tesos. So we will also create a Tesos, a Temple wallet or a Kukai wallet, which are compatible with the chain. And the last day, we're going to basically collect and mint an NFT together. And I think that's the best thing that you can do, is to act. And so when they come in, they will also, when they come into, for example, in the Twitter, they will already, because it's a cohort class, I want people to, they are all having the same type of interest, which is art. And so they can follow each other already, support each other, join my community, which is extremely inclusive and supportive, because it's made of like-minded people like me. And so that gives them a little bit of a kickstart. And also, most people come there, and they want like this to do it fast. You can, of course, but you will make a lot of mistakes. And I do believe in action, but I do believe that you need to educate yourself. So what this course does is that, when I started, the information was all over the place. I had to read, I don't know how many articles from different types of journals to understand what the blockchain was, what an NFT was. And there were all this new ecosystem of podcasts and newsletter just came, I mean, relatively recently. I mean, I know that in this space, 1 year is like a century. But, in the past year and a half, all of these things, when I started, I was just grabbing. And even like that, the situation is still very scattered everywhere, and there is not one person speaking about yet specializing. I'm finding now more specialized podcasts that are more uh, you know talking about art and NFTs, or art and technology. So those are the ones that I am more keen. But you have, fashion, and you have crypto itself. So there's many different things. And it's important to understand, for the arts vertical, that it's, it's complex, because it's not like any other type of case study. Because you have here the value, of course, of the crypto, of the token in the market, but then you have the value of the art itself. And what happens there is that you have people that are collecting because they love art, not only because they are going to speculate on the art. So that changes the paradigm. Or because they want to be supporting the artists they love. And this is also makes it a very strong market, because the community can, fight the bear market. For example, in this bear market, we still are having, there's still art selling at very, very high prices. And that's not really what I'm interested in. I'm just more interested in seeing how people have been supporting each other and buying themselves and still doing sells, and this is incredible because I don't know if this is happening in the traditional art world in terms of, unless you are, a really big artist and have already a super big market.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that is what has helped shift the paradigm of folks who are crypto natives, to actually valuing the things that they're buying and not just because the price will go up. And I guess maybe as a final question, for somebody new coming into the space, what would your advice be for them? Considering all of these myths that are everywhere. Yeah, what would your advice be
I
for them
mean,
coming in?
like in anything, you need to do your own research. That is, I think it's real for anything, but one thing is certain: we are in a digitalized world already, and we're getting more and more digitized, and obviously ownership is very important in that world, whether it's about art or a car or whatever object. That's going to be a very important issue, so you need to understand it. You need to get ready, because that's how your kids are going to be talking. They already talk that language much better than us. And you need to understand, especially if you're in business, because it's going very fast and there are people entering and entering. And what I do suggest is to do research and to read and inform yourself, and at least observe what's going on. I wouldn't just go and mint an NFT or create an NFT project because, oh wow, it's trendy. That's not the point. It's like, okay, discover what the technology can do, how it's been created, what's behind it, and then you decide whether this technology can bring something to your life, to your career, to your business. I mean, this is a technology that can really help you build an audience, build a community. You can reward that community through this system, create some sort of loyalty reward program type of thing, which works in any type of niche, in any type of vertical. That's very powerful. And that's where the paradigm has also shifted. It's not anymore about the brand, it's really about the people.
Yep.
If you don't please the people, you're dead. And it doesn't matter how cool your brand is. It's
Mm.
you can see it with some projects. It's and the projects that have not paid attention to their community, they die. They die because if the community doesn't like it or sees that you're playing around with them, they will leave you. It's
Yeah.
very, this is what is real. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody should get interested in that technology. But
Yes.
yeah, take your time, don't go crazy. uh, it's not only about investing. I mean, for me, if you are coming to take the class with me, I'm not about financial advice. I do have eyes, and I love to work with art. So obviously I have recommendations, but that's not what's going to happen in that class. That's more about getting you to really feel comfortable with the lingo, with the culture, and how you can use that technology for your own growth. Otherwise, I don't see the point. I mean, it's a learning curve. There's no secret around it. Even if you just jump and get a wallet and go to OpenSea, which is one of the biggest marketplaces, and mint an NFT, I mean, you're not going very far with that, and you're gonna need to understand why you're doing that. So do it first and then jump. You have to act, but you need to know what you're doing, basically.
100%. And I'm just going to put a screenshot of the course on the screen
Sure.
for those who watch this. And the cohort it begins October 24th. Is that correct?
Yes, it begins
Okay.
October 24th, the first one.
Yep.
I'm also trying, I'm seeing if I'm getting also some private groups that are coming in, groups of friends that
Yep.
want to learn together. So it makes it fun. I think learning needs to be, the technology can be abrasive, learning about it. So you need to find a way where people are having a good time, because otherwise they let go of it. So that's what I'm
Exactly.
trying to do in this course, to make it fun. There's a little bit of homework, that's true, but once you're in class, it's more about playing around. So that's cool.
Yes, and this will be hosted on maven.com. So on the screen, just at the bottom, be on the lookout for this course closer to the date on maven.com. But also, we will include the link, the direct link to this course in the show notes, so that you have all the information you need to join Yvonne. So thank you so much for your time today, Yvonne. And it's really interesting to hear your experience, I guess coming into this entire space from an artist lens. And I think that's what I am most looking forward to in terms of, the cross-generational conversations, and community involvement, because there's wisdom from everybody.
Absolutely.
And I think into that.
You have to. It's all about it, really. I'm in my late 50s, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it's really about how open you want to let yourself be. You are still in control of your destiny. So how far you want to go, how deep you want to go. But that's why it's important to study it, to understand it, because then you can make really educated decisions that really are
Mm.
satisfying, instead of getting frustrated and feeling like you don't know anything. And you don't need to be a techie to get into the blockchain. That's a big myth, actually. I'm definitely not a techie, I can tell you that much.
And yes, that is probably one of the biggest myths. But as you mentioned, right, more and more applications will come out to make it hopefully easier for people.
Yeah.
And even for me personally, I think we're still about 15 years away, to be honest, until we see like
Yeah.
huge mainstream
I
applications
mean,
being.
some people are more idealistic than you and I, but
Yeah.
I don't know 15, but I was, definitely thinking of like a long decade for mass adoption. But a
Yes.
lot of things, what's exciting is that, I mean, exciting and also, completely crazy for your mental health, because, I mean, you spend so much time online, but also the point is that it goes so fast that there are so many things happening. I'm actually subscribed, I think, to around 20 newsletter, and I don't read every, because a lot of them say the same thing. I mean, when they talk about news, but there's at least 5 or 8 pieces of news a day that are consequent, that you have to know about. And and I'm not talking about reading about incredible artists talking about the opportunities and the non-opportunities of the blockchain. That it's like sometimes you feel super, I mean, you can feel super overwhelmed, because there's so much information, and it's also difficult in this new age to take and filter the information, and what's real news, what's fake news. I mean, all of this is also happening in Web3, so it's constant research.
Exactly. Well,
But
thank
fun.
you again, Yvonne, and wish you all the best with your first cohort. And we'll definitely be looking to help drive people towards you through this.
Thank you, George. Have a
Thanks,
beautiful
Yvonne.
weekend. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.